Hi, and welcome back to the Sounds Like Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Deborah Henne, here with Melissa Lowe. Melissa K. Lowe empowers overwhelmed working moms to find calm and purpose through strategic time management and self care. After leaving a lucrative career due to burnout, Melissa received a breast cancer diagnosis that unexpectedly revealed her true calling, helping working moms craft lives of intention by embracing essentialism and cutting out the noise. Melissa's inspiring story shows it's never too late to redefine success on your own terms. Her holistic approach of tangible processes and mindset techniques help women reject hustle culture's empty promises and instead find peace, purpose, and true prosperity. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you for having me. It's so good to be here.
Yes. So your bio just really speaks to my heart as a working mom pursuing ministry. It's busy. Life is busy. And I know, when my kids were really little, I really struggled with that. I wasn't really pursuing ministry at that time. I was more kind of in the working mom phase. And you're right, burnout's real. And sometimes it kind of winds up spilling out in unwanted ways. So tell us a little bit about your journey and how you came to discover this amazing calling, a very needed calling. Um,
Yes. So, you know, it's not the way I would have wanted to discover it, but I can accredit, where I am today really to my breast cancer diagnosis. So, December of 2020, I was diagnosed. It was like a couple days before Christmas, too, diagnosed with cancer. And my whole world just got flipped upside down. Cancer runs in my family, so you think you're prepared for it, but you could just never be prepared to hear the word, and knowing that they apply to you. And you start thinking about your family, and your list of things that matter gets really small. That's the first thing I noticed. Is that I was just like, I don't care about anything. Like any of these projects that I'm working on, like I just care about my life and my family. And that was the catalyst. That was the start of me becoming, I think, an essentialist, someone who just focuses on what really matters. And God has really led me to this world of coaching and this world of becoming an author. It's not something I set out to do at all. I'm a data analyst and I've been a math and numbers girl my entire life. And I never thought that I'd be writing and using like all of these words that I've been trying to avoid. And that's how I'm connecting with people. So like I always think like, God, you're so funny. The way that you just like use us and kind of embarrass us a little bit because we say things like, "Oh, I'll never do that," and this is the thing that really gets you out there. So yeah, I someone as I was kind of going through my treatment, someone mentioned to me that I should think about coaching because the way that I was speaking on sharing my story, connecting with other women, helping women who were going through chemo and surgery when I was going through it as well. Someone planted that seed within me, and I had never considered it. I thought it was kind of ludicrous, to be honest. And I started to explore it a little bit more, and the more it stayed on my heart. And I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful for that person who said that to me, because a lot of the times we think about things for other people that could be a blessing and give them a new perspective, and we don't share, right? And so I'm just so thankful for her that she actually shared that with me. It changed the trajectory of my life, and I love my life now. So, yeah, that's kind of a little bit about how I got here. I would say breast cancer, even though I don't recommend it. It's something that has truly made my life and my mindset and my perspective so much more bright. I'm happy that I got to experience this side of life.
Awesome. Now you talk about experiencing true prosperity, true success. And I love that you say that because I think sometimes we get stuck in this mindset of, well, this is what success is. And we get really narrow focus. Can you talk a little bit more about how you bring people to define true success and true prosperity for them?
Yes. And I love that you say for them, because it is different for every single person, and it should be. We're not the same, and we're going to want different things. But I think the first step is understanding who you are and really loving yourself. Then you can start to tap into what it is that you really want from this life. Why were you put here? Right? I think all of us have a purpose, and we have certain skills that a lot of us are hiding, that we're not talking about, that we're doing in secret, or even dreams that we're not sharing, right? Because they feel silly and they're so different. So I want to help women uncover those things, uncover their gifts, uncover their passions, and really live a life that lights them up. So the first thing that we do is we work on what are your core values? Like, what's really important to you? And a lot of that stems from self-love, right? Like making the time to even sit and think about those things. A lot of moms don't even make the time to do that because we're so busy, and we're so focused on creating happiness for everybody else in our family. We don't think about our own. So I think the art of sitting with me, sitting with a coach, and even making that hour, carving out that time for yourself, is the first act of self-love. And it usually is, like, I think, the biggest way that women feel like they're nourishing themselves. So signing up with any coach or any friend, if you're going to have an accountability partner, just carving out an hour every week to start, I think is like a great first step to just show yourself some love.
Right. And I kind of want to talk about that self-love, because I think there's a really good balance in there. I spent years, struggling with, I don't want to be prideful. So in order to avoid being prideful, because God says he opposes the proud. I was like, oh, I don't want God to oppose me. I want to make sure I'm not prideful. But what I wound up falling into was self-deprecation, and finding ways to beat myself up and tear myself down, and all the reasons why I'm not good enough, or I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not this, and just really falling into a different trap and a different bondage, trying to avoid one and going so far in the other way, but really it was still just inappropriate self-focus, really. And I think that there's such a great truth that God is bringing into people in this time, that, if we're going to live lives that honor God, because that's what, as a believer, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to love Jesus, and I'm here to honor God, no matter where he has me and what he has me doing. So if I'm going to do that, and I need to honor what he makes, right? He is an amazing creator, and he is so full of wisdom beyond what I can begin to comprehend. And if he makes, then he made me.
Yes.
So if he made me with his wisdom and with his creativity and with a treasure. And that is something to be shared. And so just coming to that process and finding that process, that by honoring what God makes, I have to honor how he made me, and also honor all that he put in everybody else around me. So it's not like, there's a real delicate balance there, I think.
And I think it comes down to, loving our neighbors. It's appreciating that everyone has goodness inside of them, and has, things that we should appreciate. We highlight so often the negative, not just in ourselves, but in other people. And we don't work as hard to find the good. And, I think if we start to do that with ourselves, it gets easier to be kind to other people, to look for the good. And I love what you said about God making us and him not making any mistakes. He was intentional in making us. And, it's something that just really helps you feel good about loving yourself, loving who you are, even loving the imperfections, because without them, there is no growth. There is no way to get better. There is no appreciating really all that you have if you kind of don't understand what it's like to be without, right? So you have to appreciate the dark and the light. And I think that's kind of what you were saying when it comes to balance. You know, we're complex beings, and that in itself is beautiful. And there are a lot of similarities between us, but I think celebrating those unique things, you know, those things that we call quirky and weird. I always tell my son, I'm like, it's good to be weird. Like, let's all be weird together, you know? So I love what you said about that. I think it's so true. And I want people to find their weird, and embrace that. And that, I think it just makes the world interesting and better and more joyful, because now we're all coming out and we're being authentic. And I think when you start to connect with people authentically, man, it's like the best time ever.
Absolutely. And I love how you said, embracing our imperfections and not necessarily, character issues that God will highlight. I think he's faithful to highlight one at a time. At least that's been my experience. Because if you try to work on them all, you'll get nowhere, because it's pretty overwhelming, right? But, saying, this is an area where I need to grow in faith. And if I am perfect, then what do I need faith for? You
Right.
know, so I think that those are great opportunities to grow in faith and to operate in faith and to see God more than conquer, even though I am a human being who is just as imperfect as the next human being. And I think
Yeah.
it's beautiful. I think it's amazing that God can take each one of us with all of our complexities, with all of our quirks, with our successes, with our failures, and do something amazing with all of us together.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind. And I think that if more people caught that, um, I think that we would be able to operate with greater measures of grace and understanding with one another, not demanding that you be this way because I think you should be this way,
Right.
um, or that I should be this way. Um, yeah, and I think that the Bible talks about it. It talks about live with understanding with one another, seek peace with one another. Let love cover this multitude of sins because they're
Mm-hmm.
there. Love can cover it. It's okay.
Yes.
Um, and I think that as we grab that revelation of God and God's love for us, God's love for others, we'll be unstoppable.
I
Really.
love that you use that word. I love that word so much, because I think that's how I feel. If I think back to the kind of life I was living before my diagnosis, it was very much hamster wheel, always busy, giving into the hustle culture. And I wasn't really enjoying it. And now I wake up so joyful, so ready to get working on the day. And, I have the same family. I have the same friends. It's not that. It is a shift. It's an internal shift. And it's like an awakening of living my life according to who I think God called me to be, and not necessarily the picture that I had in my mind of what my life should look like. And I think that being obedient and being just open to God's plan for my life has been the biggest revelation for me. I'm like, my life is so much better when I put it in your hands, God. Like, why did I do this sooner? But I like having control of things, and that's something I had to work on. And I think sometimes that we do go through some of these trials and tribulations. So God is literally just saying, you can trust me. You can trust me, put it in my hands. So I've just been very grateful that I've been able to experience this kind of joy, this kind of, especially after some of the trauma. But I think that was there to teach me a lesson and to really give me a wake up call. But I want more people to experience this and God's goodness and His grace and even His plans for your life. And when you talk about redefining success, I mean, if anyone looking in at my life might not necessarily call me successful, but the amount of joy and fulfillment I feel, like, you can't tell me I'm not successful, right? So that's what I mean. It's so different for each person, and we have to know what really matters to us, what God called us to do and be, so that we can have our own measurement of success. And that feeling, there's nothing like it.
Absolutely. And I love how you said that, the measure of joy and fulfillment that you have being right where you are, doing exactly what God has called you to do is success. And I think that, sometimes, like I said, we want to kind of define success by, oh, you're rich and famous, or oh, you have this amazing career at the top of your career. But if you talk to some of those people, and not all of them, I'm sure, but some of them, they're empty inside.
Mm-hmm.
They're dying inside. So that is not what I want. That isn't what success is. Um, I think that you're really on to that piece, that having that deep rest inside that we're designed to live from, as human beings. We were designed to be in the Lord and to have that position in God that brings deep rest to the deepest parts of our being. That is success.
Yeah.
And God's it's different for everybody, as you said. Everybody's different because He made us all unique. He made us all with a unique purpose and plan. So to just say, oh, well, you're called to music, so therefore, if you're going to be a success in music, you need to do ABC, is not accurate.
Yes.
Maybe it's to minister to the people, in the who knows, in the local restaurant. And like, because there's an inn near us where they have people come and do music, and they invite people to just come and play worship music. Um,
Mm.
run, and they said, just come play worship music. I mean, what a ministry.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, you'll never be rich and famous off that, but you can really touch somebody's heart and somebody's life by bringing the presence of God through you in a place that they may not expect to find it.
Yeah.
And that can bring wholeness and that deep sense of fulfillment and joy that you can't get anywhere else. There's
It's
nowhere else
so
to get it.
It's so true. I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I think I also wanted to add that I think that I had to change my perspective too on, what God wants for us. Like I used to think like, so I'm still working on my whole relationship with finances. My husband's a financial planner, so we're good at managing money. So it's not about that. It's more about like, I think I always used to think that the people who are the most religious, like you had to suffer, like it was just kind of a part of it. And I think that I've come to understand over time that God wants his people also to be prosperous, right? Like he wants to put money into the hands of people that he knows has faith and who are going to do good things with it. And that's part of the process as well. So I shouldn't be afraid of making money. And that's something that I'm actually, like, in all honesty, still working on because I've tied so much to what we see in celebrity and people being rich and you're right, so many of them being unhappy, that my prayer used to be like, God, I don't want to be like that. Like I don't want to make X amount of money. Like you could just cap me like somewhere in the middle. That would be great. And I think now my prayer is just like, make sure that my heart is where you want it to be. Make sure that I know and that you can trust me with any blessings because I'm going to do good things with them. Right. So I also just wanted to put that out there for people who have an interesting relationship with finances too. Like that type of success. There are really good people who are making a lot of money and in the traditional look they look successful by traditional standards, who are actually blessing people and doing good things. So don't be afraid of that and don't run away from that as well if God is sending that your way. But you have to work on who you are on the inside, because with more money does come sometimes more issues, more responsibility, more pressures. So you have to know that you have a good relationship with God and that he can trust you with that.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought that up because I mean, I know church culture is different from place to place, but that is a big part of church culture where I'm from too, in conservative Pennsylvania, where you need to suffer and, having things is bad. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but when I look at, some biblical examples of like Abraham, for example, he was blessed to be a blessing. And yes, that was a messianic promise, 100%. But he was very wealthy, very,
Mm-hmm.
very wealthy. And he didn't look out for himself in that, but he saw that God was the source. God was the blessing. And, and I don't think his heart was attached to it.
Right.
I heard a great saying one time from somebody that said, God can bring it to you, but can he move it through you?
Love that.
And that, there have been stories of people who God blessed with huge financial boom, and they, instead of letting God move it through them, they held on to it and then it dried up. And then other stories where God brought it to them, he was able to move it through, and it kept coming and they kept moving it through. And as long as you let it move through, God will bless you so it can go out through you to those around you. And because, really, it takes money to minister, whether it's material possessions for a single mom,
Mm-hmm.
or childcare and, health care, and or a family who ran on hard times, there's a job loss. All this stuff, it takes provision. When I was young, we took in my family took in a young single mom who had got kicked out of her house for getting pregnant, and we took her in and housed her till she got on her feet, and she
Wow.
was able to get job training, got a job, got an apartment. But because my parents were blessed, they could take that blessing and say, yeah, we're going to give practical helps here, and we have the room in the house, we have extra money coming in, we can afford to feed the extra mouths, and
Mm-hmm.
up and running, so she's not, in a shelter or who knows where, you
Yeah.
know. So that kind of stuff, we don't often think about that. But yeah, if God can bring it to you, let it move through you so you can be that blessing and
Yeah.
practical helps to ministries and to people.
I love that. And I think that, when we talk about blessings, when you are a blessing to others, a lot of the time, like I love giving. And it's not just because I love the look on other people's faces. It's like I receive a gift when I give. And I think that we discount that so much. It feels so good to be a blessing to other people. And, when you were talking about, giving and, it moving through you, I thought about, you know, in order for God, I think, to even get to that point of trusting you, like you have to move in that way now when you don't have a lot, right? You need to practice. I'm always talking to my kids about practicing, practice telling the truth, practice cleaning your room. Like it's all practice. So you can't wait until you get money to start being a good steward and start being a blessing to people. You do it now when, you don't feel like you have a lot. You can find so many different ways to give and be a blessing. So that's something that I've been focused on right now is just, practicing being a good steward and being an obedient giver. Even when I don't necessarily know where it's going to come from for me, if God is telling you to do something, like really trying to honor that because he knows then, okay, he can trust you to do the right thing when the stakes are a little bit higher.
Absolutely. And that is so key. Don't wait for the blessing to be the blessing. Do whatever you can with what you've got right now. And if God tells you to give an offering of faith that you're
Mhm.
like, I don't know where this is going to come from, no, he's going to back you up.
Yes.
Um, he has the wealth of creative creative wealth and riches of heaven behind him, and he can miraculously provide, and he does. We are a testimony to that in our own lives, where God called us to give and we're like, God, we don't have it.
Right.
He told us to, and so we did, and he showed up, and it was miraculous. And it's only God, that can do that. um, but absolutely start with where you are, and if you
Yeah.
really don't have the finances and God isn't telling you to take that jump, give your time.
Yeah.
Ministries need time also, whether it's making photocopies, or who knows, putting stickers on pins.
Right.
Who knows?
But
find
you
him.
know, right? Like, I think you know, like there's a tug on your heart, there's a skill. And that's the thing that I've always found. I don't have to look too hard because there is something God's been calling me to do. And that minister might be up to, giving his sermon, and he mentions, oh, we need some volunteers. You feel that little tug on your heart telling you need to volunteer. So I'm just, I'm backing you up by saying, listen to the tug. You don't have to go too far to find how you can help. You do know, right? If we're being honest with ourselves, we a lot of the times know what we need to do.
Absolutely. Tons of opportunities to give of your time and always of your money also. So, but whatever God is leading you to, do it. Don't wait. Be faithful with where you are, and God will bring that blessing. And then you can kind of just keep growing that blessing. And, one other thing that I say is, God wants to bless. He loves blessing his children, but he loves you more. So when your heart is in the right spot, he'll bring that blessing, but he doesn't want the breakthrough to break you because
Mm.
he loves you more.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Oh, I love that so much. I feel like you need to say that again. Say that again. He doesn't want the.
He loves you too much to bless you too early because he doesn't want the breakthrough to break you.
Mm. That's so good. You have to be ready for it. You have to be ready for it. And you're right. There's so much in our lives. I used to want to know what was going on in my life, like the future. We're always concerned about the future. And I've been so thankful that God did not show me some of this stuff now, because I would have been so scared. I would have been so scared. And, it's just one of those things where sometimes you need things in bite-sized amounts. You just need to know what you got to do today. And I'm thankful sometimes that he gives it to us like that, because you're right, it can be overwhelming, right? And we're not necessarily ready for it, right? Mentally, physically, spiritually. So you're absolutely right. I love that. I feel like you need to put that on t-shirts.
Oh, oh my goodness. Now you have a journal coming out. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So as we talked about, loving God and loving ourselves, it really is about taking the time to reflect. I found that when I was working with moms, there were just certain things they couldn't even answer about themselves. And I suffered from that myself. So I wanted to help solve that problem. And journaling was something that was just very helpful to me. But I know that journaling in itself doesn't always sound like a good time. I admit that. But I wanted to make it more interesting, more familiar. So my journal, it's a guided self-love journal called the Wealthy Mama Journal. That's the name of my company. And, the purpose of the journal is to help busy women find a little bit of time to just spend some time loving and nurturing and digging into themselves and getting to know themselves a little bit better, like being your own friend. So it's based on listed journaling or list-based journaling. So similar to how we write shopping lists and Christmas lists and, name all the other to-do lists that we write. It should feel familiar because we're familiar with the idea of making lists in that way, but we're taking something that is boring and routine and, a little bit mundane, and we're making it fun because it's all about us. So when you're done, you're going to have a journal of 30 lists all about you. And not only will that be a great gift to you to look back on and see how you shifted and changed, but it can be something that you can share with your kids, your nieces, your nephews, and they can learn a little bit about the things that make you all in a book. I think of it as kind of like the top billboard of your life and like of your heart. And yeah, so it's coming out on Sunday. It'll launch on Sunday. I'm very excited. And it took me 2 years to write it because, one of the things that I didn't love about journals, even the prompted ones, is that it was just the question. And I'm coming out for a long day. I've got my kids and we're working. And I'm like, I'm going to need a little bit more than just a question to be able to start journaling and get my mind right. So, I have a guided little page, a little excerpt that you read that hopefully will make you laugh or make you like dig a little bit deeper before the question. to get you in the right frame of mind to journal. So I'm really excited to just put it out there. It's been a labor of love. And to be honest, if it's not for God and my husband, I don't know if I would have gotten through, because I had to fight my own imposter syndrome and confidence issues to even finish it. But I'm so glad that I did, and I can't wait to share it with everyone.
That is so awesome, so exciting, so needed. So in 2 days from today, and today is Friday, November 17th. So on the 19th of November, people can go and find this journal. They can give it as a gift. We're coming into Christmas season. It sounds like a great Christmas gift to somebody in your life. And where can they find this on after?
So yes, they can find it at thewealthymama.com. And wealthy is spelled WELL, because we're not focused on the financial piece of it, even though that's what my husband does. I'm like, that's your core. I'm more focused on the wellness piece of it. So it's WELLTHY, mama, MAMA.com. And it's pink, and it's a suede journal. It's got rose gold foil. It is the perfect gift for a woman in your life this holiday season. So yeah, get it. Make sure you get it.
Sounds awesome. So again, go to wealthymama.com, find the journal Sunday or later. Go get it. Get it for somebody, for yourself, for somebody in your life. Thank you for joining me today, Melissa. Don't forget to swipe, tap, or click over to the X, Instagram, or Facebook, and you can find me at Deborah Henne Author. Or click over to deborahhenne.com, and let's not forget to tune into our thoughts to make sure they sound like Jesus's, so they sound like freedom.